In this lesson, we are going to begin to verify trig identities. So there's no trick. They're basically saying that this one equals this one. We just have to figure out a path to show that they actually equal each other. So that's kind of the verifying. So we're doing a proof to these. So we're going to be using all sorts of different combinations of these things for our trig identities. Anytime we have a square on things, we're going to probably be looking to use Pythagorean identities. Otherwise, we're just going to be manipulating things. So, and there's always multiple paths to doing stuff. Sometimes I'll show more than one way, but otherwise I just kind of pick a route and let's just kind of head to it and see where it goes. If I'm ever stuck, my kind of go-to is turn everything into sines and cosines, and let's just kind of see where it goes from there. So, let's begin. So, if we have cotangent theta divided by cosecant of theta, I again kind of think, well, let's turn everything into sines and cosines. So we have cotangent, and cotangent is cosine over sine. And then cosecant is 1 over sine, which is right here. So if we kind of manipulate this a little bit, we'll take cosine theta over sine theta, and rather than dividing by 1 over sine theta, we'll multiply by its reciprocal over 1. So instead of dividing, we multiply by the reciprocal, and those two pieces cancel out and gives us exactly what we're looking for. Cool. So they verify. They equal each other. If we have cotangent times tangent, we're trying to make it so it's equal to secant cosecant. First thing is maybe just kind of turn everything into sines and cosines. There's no squares on them, so I can sub pieces out. So cotangent is cosine over sine, cosine over sine, and then tangent is sine over cosine. So now we need common denominators. So in order to get a common denominator, we got to put these fractions together, because if you notice, there's no plus or minus going on between these two. So that means we got to put them together somehow. So that is the world of fractions. So we're going to multiply them to each other. And so we multiply the cosine needs a sine and the sine needs a cosine, so we'll multiply that top and bottom. Alright, so once we do that, we'll have cosine squared over our cosine sine, and then our other fraction is going to be sine squared when you put them together over cosine sine. And then since we have common denominators, we are able to put the fractions together with our one common denominator. And this is cosine squared plus sine squared. Now, as soon as we have squares on things, I start thinking Pythagorean identity type of a thing. And so we have exactly this, sine squared plus cosine squared. So that whole numerator becomes 1 over cosine theta sine theta. And the short of this is, if you have these in the denominator, you basically have a sine and a cosine in the denominator. They can come up, but if we want to kind of break this up, if we have a multiplication in a denominator, we can treat it as two separate pieces multiplied together. And then 1 over cosine is secant, and 1 over sine is cosecant. And that is exactly what we were shooting for. Okay, so that's part 1. We'll do a couple more, and we'll kind of get progressively a little bit more challenging. Thanks.